The Minister of International Trade claims that her vanity trip to California was to promote Canadian business interests. However, emails released through Access to Information paint a very different picture. Her staff were scrambling to put a program together, and they were begging the LA Times journalists for an interview. Senior Foreign Policy and Diplomacy Officer Dan Pasquini stated in an email that this visit has only just fallen in our laps. Why does this minister continue to claim this trip was about Canadian business interests when it was actually all about her?
Good question. Of international trade.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Conservatives are trying to create a story where there is none. It's my job to promote Canada in the United States. In fact, just yesterday, I was pleased to be in Washington for a trilateral trade meeting with my American and Mexican counterparts. It was my 6th visit to the United States in 6 months. And what I'm hearing in the U.S. is that after a lost decade, Canada is finally back at the table. I'm going to keep going back and doing what the Conservatives failed to do: support trade, jobs, and our middle class.
The honourable member for Red Deer Lacombe.
Well, Mr. Speaker, in a one-on-one sit-down interview with the LA Times, the minister's California dream trip was characterized as a brief stopover. LA Consul General Villeneuve noted there seems to be a bit of confusion. The Global Affairs Director of General Communications was also confused, saying in emails, "What's she doing in LA besides the Bill Maher show?" Clearly, this is a personal trip built around her TV appearance. Well, we know the Liberals are entitled to their entitlements, but aren't taxpayers entitled to an honest answer about the real purpose for her going to LA?
The Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives continue to try to create a story where there is none. The media appearances were part of the official visit, along with 6 business roundtables. It's my job to promote Canada to the world. But since the members opposite are so interested in this topic, let me remind them that their own leader, the former Prime Minister, spent $50,000 of taxpayers' money to get himself U.S. media appearances. We don't need to do that. We get invited.
Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Mr. Speaker, the story is that the Minister of International Trade needs to be honest with Canadians. She declares proudly that she was in California to promote Canadian business, but her own officials didn't even know about the trip until 2 days before. The minister indicates that she met with the Lieutenant Governor of California and a U.S. Senator, but doesn't mention that was on the Late Show with Bill Maher. Wow. When will this minister just be honest and tell Canadians she went to Hollywood on the personal vanity trip using taxpayers' money?
Of international trade.
Mr. Speaker, unlike the Conservatives, we know it's our government's job to promote Canada to the world. And you know what? When I travel to promote Canada, I am proud to speak to the international media. Just yesterday, I gave an interview to Politico in Washington. And as minister, I'd like to list some of the other international interviews I've done. I've done an interview with MSNBC, with the Wall Street Journal, with the Washington Post, with the LA Times, with the Financial Times. I've done 3 BBC interviews. I've spoken to EU Trade Insights. I spoke to La Libre, Deutsche Welle, the German TV, Bloomberg Television, Handelsblatt, Süddeutsche Deutsche, Zeitung, the Frankfurt Allgemeine.
For Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Clear that the minister's staff had to scramble at the last minute to find things to do in California to justify doing a late show on HBO. When the minister's own staff is informed that she'll be in LA just 2 days prior to her arrival, how are Canadians to believe it was on government business? The Minister of International Trade used taxpayers' money to further her personal interests, not the interests of Canadian business. When will this minister pay back the money on this vanity trade?
Of international trade.
Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives continue to try to create a story where there isn't one, but I'd now like to share with this House some details of the business meetings I had when I was in California. Here are some of the people I met with. Jim Haney, Senior VP and General Manager of City National Bank, recently acquired by RBC. Greg Foster, the CEO of IMAX. Creative BC and Trade and Invest BC, who were there. John Chang, the Treasurer of the State of California. Jeff Gorel, the Deputy Mayor. Other meetings I had there included a reception with the Friends of British British Columbia, a meeting with Los Angeles economic leaders.
For the industry. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
For Battleford's Lloydminster. The honourable member for Battleford's Lloydminster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We all know the Trade Minister's sole purpose for being in LA was to be on television. Yesterday, when the government House Leader tried to defend the minister's unplanned vanity trip, he said, and I quote, "The minister signed important agreements during her visit to California." Well, if that's the case, Mr. Speaker, will she table these important agreements immediately, keeping in mind that credit card receipts and the waiver for Bill Maher don't count?
Honourable Minister of International Trade.
Mr. Speaker, once again, the Conservatives are trying to create a story where there is none. I've already listed the business meetings I held in California, but unlike the Conservatives, I do want to point out that they don't like the media. We understand it's our job to talk to the media at home and abroad. And in California, I want to point out, I appeared in the media with some important Canadian partners, Senator Angus King of Maine and the California Lieutenant Governor Gavin Newsom.
Battleford's Lloydminster.
They all happen to be sitting on the same panel show, Mr. Speaker, so they don't count as individuals. Either the minister signed important agreements or she didn't. If she did, then she should table them right here so we can all have a look at them. We know her own bureaucrats were in the dark, 500 pages of emails in 2 days trying to figure out what she was doing there and why it would cost $20,000 to have her there. So is the House Leader going to stand and actually apologize for misleading the House yesterday if there were no said agreements?
The Honourable Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, what we're not going to apologize for is having an international trade minister that travels around the world promoting Canadian commercial interests in the United States and in other parts of the world. We're proud of the work she's doing for Canadian jobs and to ensure that Canadian companies are able to compete globally, and she'll continue to do that.
The honourable member for Lévis-Lobinière. Mr. Speaker, the Government House Leader stated yesterday in this House that the Minister of International Trade had signed important agreements during her visit to Los Angeles. Would it be possible for us to find out which agreements? The Honourable Minister of International Trade. Mr. Speaker, once again, the Conservatives are seeking a story where none exists. It is my role to promote Canada abroad. But given that the opposition members are so interested in this matter, I will repeat in French that they must remember that it is their former leader who spent $50,000 of taxpayers' money to pay for a consultant to find interviews in the United States.
Organized media appearances.
Thanks for watching. Click here to never miss a Rebel update. Want even more of the Rebel? Well, click here to become a premium member.